Today's episode is brought to you by Fretboard Biology, the comprehensive online guitar course put together by Joe Elliott. Now, Joe is not only a fantastic guitar player, he draws on his years of experience as the ex-head of guitar at the Guitar Institute of Technology and also at the McNally Smith Music College. Here's a few words from Joe about the course.
If you're tired of wading through hundreds of random guitar videos and just want to become a better player, Fretboard Biology is your answer. Fretboard Biology is a self-paced, college-level program that'll give you the right instruction, in the right amounts, and in the right order. You'll learn the same information I taught to thousands of other guitar players over 30 years of teaching in top music colleges. If you want to make real progress with your guitar playing, then sign up for a free 7-day trial at fretboardbiology.com.
Hi there, you are listening to the Guitar Speak podcast. My name's Matt Wakeling and this is the show that I produce in Sydney, Australia. The podcast has been running since 2016 and it's been an interview show for many, many years and it still is. But for the last 18 months or so, I've been having a great time adding on a sub-series, if you like, with my good friends Rob Rhodes.
Hey Matt, hey Gabor.
And Gabor Josika.
Hey Rob, hey Matt, how you guys doing?
Great to see you guys. So we're back for another iconic series. So I guess if people are new to the show, we started doing iconic albums in, I think it was around June, July 2021, and we chose some albums, sort of like what we're going to do for today's episode. But what I've enjoyed is how that's morphed out to other things. So we've done like the iconic Fender oddballs and the Gibson oddballs and the iconic signature gear and a bunch of other kind of themed shows, which has been heaps of fun. So it's great to be back for some more recording.
Absolutely.
Always fun, always fun.
So we've got an iconic albums show of sorts and it has a Christmas theme, a festive theme, a season's greetings theme, whatever you want to call it. We're talking about Christmas records with really cool guitars. Rob, I think this was your idea in one of our various forums of chatting to each other. Thank you.
No worries, I'm just always coming up with ideas so we can just hang out and chat. I thought, this one's time sensitive, so we'll make it happen.
We will. And I'm gonna release this tomorrow. So
all right.
That's one way to get
luck.
me that's one way to get me moving along. So there we go. Okay, so here are the rules. We each chose one Christmas album with cool guitar feature somehow. True to form, we've all chosen fairly different styles of music, different guitar players, and that's what makes this show fun. Paper, scissors, rock. Any volunteers for first?
Go alphabetical. We haven't gone alphabetical before.
Okay. Are we talking albums?
No, names. First names.
Well, that would be Gabor.
All of me. I was trying to think.
Yeah.
I was going, where? What?
G.
I can count to 4.
Yeah.
Once we go to alphabet, it's, and I go as far up as G. Once we go past G, I don't know what's going on.
No idea.
There's
Back
an H
to A
chord.
again.
Well, that's the musical alphabet. That's right. Hey, Gabor, musical alphabet back in Austria, is H a B flat?
There is an H, but I don't know what it is. I've never learned any music stuff in non-English languages. So I know there is an H, but I'm not 100% sure what it is. But I think, possibly B flat.
Yeah, I remember buying an ABBA chart from a school fete. I can't remember what the song was, but it was like a piano score and it had, with guitar chords, and it had a H on there and mind blown. Because I couldn't play B flat anyway, so I had
it's ABBA, that's how they wrote all those hits. They had one extra chord.
That's right.
The H. H for hit.
That's it, the hit chord.
100%. Sorry, I digress. Gabor, what's your Christmas album? Hit us with it.
Okay, so let's. This is like a band-aid. Let's get me out of the way first. So as always, of course, I choose something a little bit on the different sort of side of things. So I chose John Zorn's "A Dreamer's Christmas." So we've talked in one of the previous episodes. We've talked about John Zorn before. I think it was a live albums or something like that. I think
it was one of them. I can't remember which one, but yeah.
So John Zorn, if you haven't heard of John Zorn, he's sort of a New York experimental jazz guy. but he plays saxophone. But he has a lot of musical output. He has a lot of different bands he puts together that he doesn't even play in. He just writes the music for them and kind of conducts the bands. And this is one of those. So this is a Dreamers Christmas, and it's referring to Dreamers being one of the bands that he uses quite frequently, which consists of Jamie Saft on keyboards, Kenny Wallison on vibes, chimes, and glockenspiel, Trevor Dunn on bass, electric bass and double bass, Joey Barron on drums, Sari Baptiste on percussion. One track has vocals on it as well, which Mike Patton came and did some singing on it. And on guitar, one of my absolute all-time favorite guys, Mr. Marc Ribot, which is one of the reasons why I chose it as well, because it's okay. So it was released in 2001. Let's do the background. So it was released in October 2011, on John Zorn's own label called Zadig. It was recorded at East Side Sound in New York City by Mark Uselli and mastered by Scott Hull. So both fairly well-known names in the world of recording and mastering. And they've been long-time collaborators with John Zorn. It's a beautiful sounding album, actually. I know you guys didn't hear the full beautifulness of it, but we'll get into that later. So basically, it's a band of pretty much mostly A-list sort of musicians. So I mentioned this. It's the same band that played on that live album that we talked about ages ago.
Okay.
I mean, these guys between them played and recorded with guys like Herbie Hancock, Brian Eno, David Bowie, Paul Simon, Santana. Massive list of big albums these guys played on, or studio. They were either studio or live musicians amongst all of them, between all of them. Now, I picked it. It's sort of a loungy, jazzy kind of take on Christmas songs, played by avant-garde, improvisational jazz musicians who are mostly Jewish as well, on top of it all, which is kind of makes it kind of interesting. I'm not sure if they're all Jewish. I don't know, but a lot of them are Jewish anyway. So you've got Marc Ribot on guitar, super distinctive player, in my opinion. That sort of very kind of angular, sort of syncopated kind of style of playing, very hard attack with his right hand, very interesting sort of dude. Yeah. And they basically did a bunch of Christmas hits, hits under quotation marks, and a couple of original tunes that John Zorn wrote, especially for Christmas. And gear as well. So Marc Ribot being the guitarist on it. Not 100% sure what he used in the studio to record it, but any Dreamers live stuff I could find on YouTube. He usually either uses a Gretsch, and that's a very long name, a G6122T 59 Vintage Select 59 Chet Atkins Country Gentleman Thin Line with Bixby. That's the actual title.
Some of those Gretsch titles.
One of those Gretsch titles. It's almost like Ibanez and Gretsch there, yeah. So basically it's like it's the Country Gentleman, but it's not the full body one. It's the thinner, like 335 style with the fake F-holes.
Yeah, right.
In a mahogany walnut look finish with that kind of curvy Bixby. Anyway, beautiful looking guitar. Or he uses his 63 Fender Jaguar, very beaten up, trashed Jaguar, usually through a deluxe reverb. So that's kind of the gear. Now, the two songs that I picked from that, just to kind of, get people interested, are Let It Snow and one of John Zorn's originals, which is Magical Sleigh Ride. Now, did you get a chance to listen to the files of Singer?
I did, but I had to go to a few artisanal markets and flick through CDs to find it first, because it's not existent online. But we did find that it was on iTunes or Apple Music.
Yeah,
And then Gabor did this amazing thing where he just played it on his stereo and recorded on his phone and sent it to us. So, so we didn't quite have to, send the sleigh dogs out to find a copy, but we did eventually listen to it. I listened to your two picks, and it was really interesting. The Let It Snow, as soon as it started with that, the bass line that it starts with, just all of a sudden Tim Burton vibes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like it so gave me that like cinematic vision of something Tim Burton would do. And it was just a tiny bit like off, tiny little bit dissonant, where like just made me feel uneasy.
Yeah.
But in a good way, kind of like the Addams Family, you know, like
that's great.
And you said Gretsch, but on this track, I was certain it was an offset in the bridge position.
I'd say, yeah. It sounds like his Jaguar that he plays.
Yeah, and I made a couple of notes like, it takes an absolute genius and an element of ridiculousness to commit to those guitar parts. Like only a freak. An evil genius can make that stuff work.
He's a madman, but that's what I love about him. It's, I mean, he starts playing the melody normal, under quotation marks.
Normal, yeah.
But then he just goes into that Marc Ribot-ism. To me, it's such an instantly distinguishable. That's the word. Guitar player. It's this sort of choppy. I call it angular. I don't know if that's sort of the right word, but it sounds very and kind of syncopated to the rest of the rhythm a little bit. And he just goes and he plays these really off things, but they work somehow. Yeah. It's just something about it. I love his playing. I think he's just such a genius player. Like you said, it's a fine line between, is it going to be horrible or is it going to be insanely awesome? And it's always on insanely awesome with him. He's just on that fine line, but he's just so good at being on that fine line. And the band is killer. It's such a good band.
And then the second track, the Magical Sleigh Ride, I love the clave that it kicks off with. You know, like that's just killer. And who doesn't love a glockenspiel? Like I was listening to it going, is it a glockenspiel or a xylophone? But I couldn't hear the woodiness, so I figured it was a glockenspiel.
And the guitar and the glockenspiel playing the lines together.
Unison. That's nice.
Yeah. That's beautiful. It's just, I love that sort of stuff.
And then that guitar that kicks in at about 2 minutes 20 is just hot, like absolutely hot.
And it's Ribot again. It's just him.
Yeah.
It's just
and he's just riding that line of a maniacal genius, is what I wrote down.
Absolutely.
Like it could go wrong at any moment, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
I felt that. Oh, what did I write? I said. Sounded like Yosemite Sam. Then I said, boy. I like the feeling that the music was giving me, that unpredictability that excites the brain and gets you thinking about how to work that approach into your own playing. I'm also a big fan of a repeating motif with that underpinning descending rhythm pattern, which it does at the end. And I just wrote candy for my ear holes.
Nice.
And it goes, I don't know if you noticed, but it goes from 6/8 into like a 4/4 into a 6/8, and you don't necessarily even notice it. Did you notice
you
it?
can only count to 4.
Okay,
so I'm lost.
It's 4 and 2 and then
4 and 2.
But it sort of starts in a 6/8. It starts and ends in 6/8, but then the middle bit goes into 4/4, and you don't notice it. It's almost seamless.
Yeah,
it's
nice.
Cool.
I'm a singing guitar player, so I don't have to count at all. Everyone just has to follow me.
That's right. That's right.
What did you think, Matt?
Yeah, I was digging it. I think it's beautiful descriptions, Rob. Yeah, Ribot, he's dangerous, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like he's right on the edge of things, which is so fun and exciting. With Let It Snow, it started off relatively straight, but there was this kind of subversive undercurrent. I thought it'd be more obvious, but it's quite subtle. And for me, it was often the keys player just getting kooky underneath Ribot playing relatively straight, and then obviously he took it out as well, which was fun. I noted in that tune, it's a very direct, dry kind of tone. I don't mean direct like plugged into a DI box. I mean like it's quite in your face, that tone. Like it's right there.
I think it's just a fully cranked deluxe reverb. And I think there's nothing else there, and it's close mic'd by the sounds of it too. There's not much room going on. Yeah.
It's almost awkward in a way.
Yeah. But I think it's also it's one of those sounds where you can't hide behind anything. Whatever you play, it's right there. It's right in your face. And I do believe, and I'm not 100% sure, but I do believe they record often live in sitting live in a circle in a room. Those guys, and they do a couple of takes, and then they pick whatever take they like the best.
Nice.
There's actually, I didn't send you that song, but there's another. It's great again. It's so Marc Ribot. Another track on there, Santa Claus is Coming to Town. For anyone out there who wants to listen to it, it starts off with Ribot playing acoustic guitar, sort of playing the chords and melody kind of at once, but again, very Ribot style. And then it goes into this full-on swing jazz thing where it's just piano double bass and drums, but total swing jazz. And then it goes back into the acoustic thing. And so if anyone out there wants to have a listen to it, if anyone can find it on a non-hard copy, but it is available on iTunes. You can buy it on iTunes. But you can't listen to it on Apple Music, even if you have a membership. You have to buy it. It's one of those things. Check that out as well. So with that whole album, I mean, there's moments of guitar on it, and then there's some songs where there's hardly any guitar on it because it's mostly, he's featuring different instruments in different songs. But I mean, there's always some, rhythm guitar track in the background. But I picked those two just because they were the most guitar and most typical sort of Ribot-isms, on that.
Yeah, cool.
It's cool, man. And in Magical Sleigh Ride, it's like a broader palette of guitar stuff, hey? So the volume swells and
so sort of atmospheric guitar to start.
Yeah, it's really nice.
And then that doubling the melody with the it's vibes, the Glockenspiel, whatever it is that it's sort of doubled with, and and then it goes into the crazy guitar solo. It
goes bonkers.
Yeah,
and the trem is like almost surfy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's a lot of, with his playing, there's a lot of influence of sort of surf music and the Dreamers sort of as a whole band have that sort of undercurrent of sort of surf music. That's sort of one of the projects of John Zorn projects that have that sort of undercurrent of surf music.
Yeah, nice.
Wasn't there a band called Freddie and the Dreamers? Was that from a movie? Can't remember.
Maybe, I'm not sure.
If only there was some way we could look it up.
I don't know.
If only.
If only. I don't think modern technology is quite that advanced yet, but...
No.
All right. So, John Zorn, thanks, Gabor. Cool record.
That's all right.
Ribot, man. I like Ribot. I'm sure I said this again last time we discussed him, but I like these guys who are into the avant-garde thing, but can also play it straight if they need to, which he does on some of his gigs, obviously.
On a lot of his, he does. Because I mean, he played with Elvis Costello, with Tom Waits.
Yeah.
He played with Dinah Krall. He played with Robert Plant and
Mary Lou Harris.
He played with lots of He did a lot of stuff, and so he can do straight stuff as well. But there's always a kind of little edge of unpredictability there with him, and
it's cool.
It's just his unique style. I love his style of playing.
Yeah, nice. Very cool. All right. Alphabetical Christmas. I think we're up to you, Rob.
I think Matt comes before Rob.
I think M comes before R, doesn't it?
But on my Google Meet, I'm you. Like, Y for you. All right, I'll go next.
That's for all the people with the special glasses. Our live stream that people are tuning into right now.
That's right. All around the world at Christmas-ish time. All right, my album I chose was Dig That Crazy Christmas from the Brian Setzer Orchestra.
Yeah.
A little bit of background on Brian Setzer, maybe for the youngsters tuning in. Setzer probably first rose to prominence in the early 80s with the Stray Cats, the whole rockabilly revival band with his incendiary guitar playing. So that band, Stray Cats, I didn't know this till I looked it up today, but they're only sort of in their peak for about 3 or 4 years, then split, and they've obviously reformed at different times since then. But by 84, they were essentially done. Setzer goes on to make a couple of solo records, more rock sort of records, does some sideman work. But in the early 90s, he starts off his Brian Setzer Orchestra, really with a big emphasis on swing tunes. Again, that big hollow body Gretsch thing he does so well. That some of those Stray Cat kind of tones, the rockabilly tones he's bringing into that kind of domain. And ended up making 11 Brian Setzer Orchestra records, and 4 of those were Christmas albums. And it wasn't until I started watching Christmas movies again with my kids that I realised how many cheesy Christmas movies will have a Brian Setzer Orchestra Christmas version of Jingle Bells or some such tune. He's in so many movies. But yeah, there we go. So the two tracks I chose as sort of taster tracks was Let It Snow. So second time that song has got to run tonight. Let It Snow times 3, or Let It Snow cubed, as some of us call it. And My Favourite Things, which isn't really a Christmas track. Most of us remember it from The Sound of Music. But it's been covered by many people. John Coltrane, to mention one. And it's a beautiful instrumental arrangement from Brian Setzer. Guys, where does Brian Setzer land on your respective radars?
I love Brian Setzer. He's awesome. He's very high on my respective radar. I just love his style of playing. I love his... he's just such a cool dude. Even just when he talks, he's just such a cool dude. Yeah. And I just love that sort of fusion of and I mean, that's rockabilly, isn't it? That sort of fusion of that sort of country, jazz, swing, cool melodic chords, voicings and playing chord melodies and stuff like that he does. I love the stuff he does. And that, just his tone, the Gretsch with the, slap back and through a basement. I love his stuff. I'm a big fan.
Rob, do you remember him in The Stray Cats? I know there's a few years between us, but you seem to be on that pulse.
I remember Rock This Town. I remember the video clip of that, and maybe Runaway Boys as well. But I think it must have been later than when it came out, because I remember seeing it on MTV, I think.
Okay, yeah.
So that was a bit later. And I've been a big Brian Setzer fan from, I've got a couple of Stray Cats records, and his song on Paul Rodgers' Muddy Water Blues album, which I think we've brought up once or twice before on this podcast. He does Good Morning Little Schoolgirl on that, I think. And, what does he do? I can't remember what track right now off the top of my head, but that's what research would have been good for. He features on a track on that album, and it's so good. And, just always been a fan of his. I think I bought the first Brian Setzer Orchestra album as well, because that was sort of right at the peak, and used to see him on the Conan O'Brien show, and Jay Leno quite a bit with the big band, and that was always worth sort of tuning in for.
And the outfits matching the guitar and stuff. It's just so cool.
And he was on recently. I think he was maybe on Kimmel, or maybe Fallon. I can't remember, but I think I was pretty sure it was Kimmel. And there he is. He's just got, I think it's 2 or 3 bassman heads, and just the whole top of it's covered in space echoes. Original, space echoes, and you're like, that's where the sound comes from. Yeah. And it's still killing it.
There's a rig rundown of his stuff where the guy, I think they have, I don't know how many they lug around because they always break, and then they have to fix them. And there's the ones that work and the ones that don't work.
That's a full-time job for some guy on the road, for sure.
But go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and restringing all those Gretches. So he's had about 1 million Gretsch 6120 signature models, which were probably originally known as the Chet Atkins, I guess, from the mid-50s. So he was a big vintage nut.
But I had Boogie Woogie Christmas that, every year when we went out and did Christmas gigs, I would just put that on rotation. I refused to put any other Christmas songs on. Yeah. It would always be Brian Setzer Orchestra, and occasionally Boney M. But because that's always good fun.
That's a little bit different, but okay.
Yeah. But it's funny because that whole what memories are triggered from this stuff. When I put that on and was listening to it, I just wanted to go and watch Die Hard. Yeah. And I don't know why, but it just elicited that feeling. I was just like, I really want to go watch Die Hard now, because we all know that's the greatest Christmas movie of all time. End of discussion. It is a Christmas movie. Gonna upset some people. No, I think I'm preaching to the choir with that one. Yeah. But yeah,
Well, it says at Christmas, so I mean, yeah.
but it's crazy, he's a perfect fit, right? Like that big band music, his vocal delivery, he's like an edgier Bing Crosby.
Yes.
It's a marriage made in heaven.
Leopard skin boots.
With killer chops.
Yeah.
Killer
and the two songs that Let It Snow, I love that low register trombone solo. It just made me
trombone
smile.
solo, perfect.
I know we're a guitar podcast, but oh man, you got to love brass. And then in my favourite things, which was eye-opening for me because I didn't really think of him as a fingerstyle player.
Yeah,
It's really beautiful what he's doing in there.
Yeah.
It was really, I got learned at the beginning and the intro of that song, and I just went, wow, that is so sweet.
The intro in those harmonics that he plays, and it almost reminds me of Take 5, the song Take 5. It has that similar sort of...
Is it Dave Brubeck?
Dave Brubeck, yeah. The chords in the background and the harmonics, it reminds me of that. I almost thought, is he going to go into Take 5 and then into... But yeah, it's cool. It's just... he's such a unique and still kind of inventive player. He's still... Even though he's done a lot of cool stuff, you hear him do different stuff still, kind of,
Yeah, definitely.
He's great.
Definitely. Yeah, there's not many like him. Obviously, players like Chris Chaney from The Living End took a lot of cues from Setzer. But yeah, he owns his own patch of land for sure.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. And, all the horn arrangements in Let It Snow are amazing. I heard him, or I read an interview rather, when he was starting the orchestra stuff, that he just play riffs with an arranger and pretty much transcribe guitar riffs for the brass sections and things like that. And he's probably worked with some amazing arrangers since that start. But yeah, they're just killer parts.
But he also has that Sinatra delivery as well with his voice.
Oh yeah, his vocals.
The flamboyance. It's yeah.
He's got the whole deal, and his hair is outstanding.
And the sideburns, hand sideburns.
Yeah, he kills it. All right, there we go. Brian Setzer Orchestra. Yeah, like I said, 4 Christmas albums. They're all killers. I chose the album I did because of My Favourite Things, which, again, not really a Christmas song.
Actually, one of the things I wrote down is when in My Favourite Things, at the start of the song, the guitar is right in the foreground, but then it goes into that bit where the orchestra takes over.
Yeah.
You can hear, I think it was only on one side or something, his rhythm playing is beautiful behind it. It's very, very faint in the background. But that's one of the things I wrote down. Really nice, very rhythmic, like interesting rhythmic rhythm playing and interesting voicings, but very low in a mix behind the orchestra. And killer solo in My Favourite Things.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by Fretboard Biology, the comprehensive online guitar course put together by Joe Elliott, ex-head of guitar at the Guitar Institute of Technology and the McNally Smith College of Music. I was one of the beta testers for the course and can say as a music educator, I was really impressed by the logical sequence of learning. The course has also been endorsed by players such as Brett Garsed and Greg Koch. For more details, check out the links in our show notes. Awesome. All right. Let's try this again. Alphabetical order. G, Y, and R for Rob. Okay,
Bringing up the rear.
Okay.
He's got 2 R's too, not just one. He's double R.
Yes. So I chose, surprise, surprise, Steve Lukather's 2003 release Sentimental.
Mm-hmm.
It was released on the 7th of October in 2003, and it was recorded between the 17th and the 24th of June 2002 at the Steakhouse. Not happy being vegan, having to read that out.
Yeah.
Hollywood, California. So in 2002, Lukather started the recordings of the solo album with a jazz rock style covers of classic and brand new Christmas songs that he rearranged himself with Jeff Babco. It includes guests such as Edgar Winter, Slash, Mike Landau and his son Trevor, and of course Eddie Van Halen, which is one of my featured tracks.
Yeah.
And a kind of Nat King Cole, Natalie Cole style thing with Sammy Davis Jr., which is it's really cool. So yeah, I chose track 1, Joy to the World, with Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah.
And
I was going to ask who's the other guitarist on this track.
Yeah. Eddie. So
because it's cool how they switch. Like they go from one does a solo, then the other, and then he goes back and forth between the two.
Yeah, and they've been friends for a long time, and we all know the story of Luke bringing Eddie in on the Thriller sessions and what led to Eddie playing on Beat It, that iconic solo.
I'm actually just listening to the audio version of the Gospel According to Luke.
Yeah.
His book. Yeah, I'm just been listening to it for a little while now, so I'm getting into that more. It's such a cool story.
Yeah, man.
His life.
Yeah,
but
anyway. And he's just done the Sunset Sound series.
Yeah.
Talk. So I'm sort of halfway through that. That's funny. Especially his Prince stories.
The Prince one, where he sits on a motorbike and just raises the eyebrows. Yeah, that's.
But like,
acknowledge him.
Yeah, so on this album, there's Greg Bissonette on drums, and when you've got guys like Lenny Castro on percussion and Simon Phillips featured on tambourine.
Wow.
John Pierce on bass. So that's like the core of it, and then you've got the guys like Steve Vai appearing on their own tracks as well. So yeah, like, what do you say about Joy to the World? Like, I think what Luke said himself was he just went for a Hot for Teacher version of Joy to the World, and that's exactly what they delivered. And the second track I chose was, surprisingly, probably for most people, was the Sammy Davis Jr., him and Jingle Bells, because, like, his voice.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I'm a singer as much as I am a guitar player, but Sammy Davis's voice is just so smooth.
Yeah.
I just brought that track to life. And, just, again, it just made me smile, so I had to choose it. And, it could have been just as easy to go with track 4, that one with Steve Vai, but I don't know. Like it's nothing we haven't heard before, so I just wanted to share a little bit of a legend that is Sammy Davis Jr., because all those guys are sort of slowly being forgotten. And I think as far as tone, timbre and phrasing goes, like, it's a lesson. That song, how he sings it, how he delivers it, like, true entertainer. And
beautiful, yeah.
You can only benefit from listening to guys like that.
Yeah. Does Lukather sing a little bit on it as well, or is it all Sammy Davis?
That is an excellent question, because I just got lost in Sammy, but I'm sure that he's doing some stuff on there.
Yeah, I just heard a bit towards the end, I think, and I thought, that sounds like Lukather. But I was trying to guess who it was. So when you said, like, just now, Sammy Davis Jr., I'm like, oh, yeah, of course. That's major. Imagine calling
I didn't know who it was at the time either, but yeah.
For the job.
Yeah, so he said, I sampled the vocals of Sammy Davis Jr. and made a duet with him. So, he obviously sings with it.
That's cool.
And the album sounds like a big band based on Weather Report, Frank Zappa, and Van Halen. That's what he's going for.
Well, I actually wrote down for Jingle Bells, it sounds a little bit Setzer-esque, I actually wrote down, especially the solo.
Yeah,
And for Joy to the World, I wrote down, it's a very prog Christmas.
With Joy to the World, Hot for Teacher, absolutely. But all the reharmonization underneath is great, man.
So
great drums. That's what I wrote down as well. Great drums on that track, Joy to the World.
Yeah, and they didn't sit down and work it out.
No.
They were just, that's not Eddie and that's not Luke. Like, he never sits down and works anything out. So all that stuff would have been very just stream of consciousness and listening to one another. And
one or two takes, and that's it. Done.
Oh, definitely.
Let's get out of here.
When I say reharmonization, I mean like more like the chords underneath that they were putting underneath the arrangement, I guess, were really, really cool. I used to, I think you guys know, I used to be a church music director back in the day, and I used to love reharmonizing Christmas tunes or arranging them, because I love, like Joy to the World, it's really a 4-chord song in a lot of ways. But yeah, some of the fusiony stuff, I guess, like like Gabor was saying, it almost has a prog thing because the drums are going bonkers. And then there's all
the
these
drums,
tasty chords.
Yeah.
And then the shredding on top. It was fun hearing Eddie in just a sort of similar but sort of different universe. That was cool.
Well, yeah, and back to what we were saying, that whole record was done in 6 days on a 24-track, click, old school. 90% of the solos were live, except for the guests who played on it. So,
perfect.
Well, that's one of the amazing things. If people out there listen to, or read the Lukather biography, because I mean the stuff he just said, we just first take, whatever famous solo in whatever famous song. Oh yeah. First take.
Yeah, with everybody, every session guitarist just staring at him through the glass.
With Carlton and God knows who sitting on the other side looking at him, and he goes, I felt a little bit intimidated, but nailed it first take. It's great, actually. I love, and I think I took your word for that there, Rob. You said, listen to it, don't read it, because it's Lukather himself reading it to you, and it's just so great hearing it from him.
And he does little asides that aren't in the book. Like he addresses something and he goes, this got cut from the book, but it's such a great story.
That's cool. It's very interesting. Very, very interesting.
Has he got a new record out? New solo record? Relatively recently?
There was him and Joe Williams both released solo records a couple of years ago, I think.
Okay.
So,
I think Toto with a new lineup touring at the moment or something
touring
like that?
with Journey. They've been doing theatres, selling them out all over Europe and the States. And someone was saying, I was talking to someone today about these festivals that are just touring with all the legacy artists and just going bonkers.
Yeah.
Like the Poison, Motley Crue one and the Journey Toto one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like the only way that those bands can get crowds is to put these multi-bills together and go out. Def Leppard, I think, is on the Motley Crue Poison one too.
Okay.
It's just... Yeah, it's good to see because the band is pretty hot. There's only really... Luke is the only original member, and Joe Williams, who came in, he was the second vocalist of Toto, son of John Williams, the movie composer.
Yeah.
But they've got the Billy Joel sax player at the moment playing rhythm.
One of the keyboard players used to play with Prince, because I watched it. There was a thing I watched on YouTube, and it was sort of introducing the band. Yeah. And I think they're all, as always, they're all just guns, absolute guns.
Yeah, and I think the bass player's been around the group pretty much since day one, like they went to high school with him or something. So there is a lineage through it all, but there's a couple of kids in there that, gun.
What a high school too. I know. Because, he went to school with Landau.
Yeah.
Wow.
Went to the same school, or the Picaras went to the same school. That's whatever they put in the water, that's cool. That's not bad water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Any last thoughts on that album, guys?
I dug it. It's cool. I like I really like the fusion-y green sleeves as well. That was kind of fun. Twist on another non-Christmas song, but a traditional type tune. Very cool.
I only listened to those two tracks.
And then you went out and got ice cream, or?
Yeah, I really wanted ice cream. I don't know why.
All the kids from the neighbourhood were running, going, where, what?
That's a strange sounding ice cream truck.
That's right.
Sounds familiar.
No, I only had time so far to listen to those two tracks, but they were great. Yeah, I really enjoyed both of them. I thought, I personally, particularly Jingle Bells, I loved the vocals. And it just the whole arrangement of that. I wrote down very schmick production. That's the what I actually wrote down as well. Beautifully done. And that super prog, crazy in your face with the drummer you just sort of envision Animal from the Muppet Show, because he was just going nuts throughout the whole.
And that's Greg Bissonette.
He's so good, man. So good.
But it does have the production of the Lost Lobotomies record that Lukather did in the early 2000s.
Similar time,
very similar production to that, and that fusion-y thing, so you can see where he was at that time from a solo point of view.
Hey, speaking of Greg Bissonette, he had an EP out in the 90s, and it was through Pearl. Pearl Drums actually distributed it. Okay. And it was, his brother Matt was on bass for all of it. I think Matt wrote most of it. But killer guest guitarist. So Lukather was on some tunes. Scott Henderson was on some stuff. Can't remember who else. I'd love to track that down. But Lukather is amazing on that as well. I guess
they were the rhythm section for Satch for a while, weren't they? The Bissonette brothers.
That's right.
The Extremist record, I think.
Yeah.
Which is probably the best sounding production of any Satriani record.
It's killer, absolutely.
It's loud and bold and...
Yeah. Yeah. And is Bissonette and Lukather, they're both doing the Ringo Starr Band at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, they have for a long time, yeah. Very cool. Very cool. All right,
I think Colin Hayes sings in that now as well.
Oh, yeah, he does. He does.
Yeah. Wow.
What a band.
Yeah.
All right, I think we've covered 3 very cool Christmas records with some excellent guitar playing. Good choices, fellas.
Absolutely. Golf club, yeah. Let's give ourselves some golf clubs, yeah.
Hey, before we go, guys, where can people find out more about you in your other guises around the place, Gabor?
I have a YouTube channel and another podcast, if you want to listen to more podcasts, slightly less regular podcast, but called the Superfun Awesome Happy Time Pedal Show, where I talk about gear, guitar gear, pedals, amps, guitars, and all that sort of stuff. And it's all just one word, the Superfun Awesome Happy Time Pedal Show. That's
very cool. Very cool. And Rob?
Just keep up to date with me at roadtripent.com. There's my Living in the 70s show out and about, and we're about to kick off Living in the 80s in January, which is very exciting.
That's so good, man. I'm
busy learning like 60 songs and having fun with that.
Love it, man. Hardest working man in showbiz. Rob Rose. Gabor Josika, the Hugh Jackman of guitars.
Yep. I think you guys are calling me that, and the other night on Peter Northcote's Twitch channel, he called me the best dressed man in show business. I was just like, it's embarrassing, but yeah, it might be true.
It could be true.
You need to come to a show and tell me. Just
you have a
feedback
clothing
in
sponsorship,
person.
though, Rob.
Well, yes, I do have a collab with English Laundry, which has been wonderful. But I need to get another wardrobe. I'm running out of space. But I'm planning on doing a video where I switch shirts and guitars. So it's just like click, 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 and it looks like I'm just like every different guitars, different shirts. So I'm working on that at the moment. So maybe I don't want to say it's going to be my first TikTok because I don't really want to go to TikTok, but it might be a reel or something.
Nice.
It'll be fun to do.
You're an ideas man, Rob. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, fellas. This has been good fun. I hope you've enjoyed this at home. And usually when we wrap up a show, we draw on the wisdom of Michael Schenker, who once told me, "Merry Christmas, you filthy animal." All right. I'm sorry, he didn't say that. That was the guy from Home Alone. Sorry, Michael Schenker, who once told me,
"Keep rocking, keep on rocking."
Keep on rocking. All right, keep on rocking, folks. Merry Christmas. Thanks, fellas.
Ho, ho, ho!
See you later. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.